On November 9th, 2024, the straw broke the camel's back. I was the camel, and this is the story of our no screen month. Hey everyone, it's Aubrey, recovering perfectionist, queen of distraction. I'm a wife, mom of 2 boys. Jackson's 9, Alec is 3, and we are just gonna get into how we managed to make it through a month screen-free. I'm so happy you're here. This is a video that I have been trying to sit down and make for probably at least the last month. I know I've talked about it in several videos and it's finally happening. I've got my cup of tea that I made 2 hours ago and forgot about, and a chunk of time to sit down and just really chat with you all about how we navigated our month screen-free, how we broke the news to the kids, what we did to stay busy, lessons learned, the good, the bad, this, that, and the other. And I guess like with any story, we're going to start at the beginning. So once upon a time, there was a mom and she was fed up. That was me. My husband and I, we have talked so many times about doing a no screen month, but despite every encouraging reel or eye-opening article or video that we read or watched that we would send to each other, it just felt like the timing was never right. And I can honestly say it was 100% on my part. As much as I know that TV and video games rot your brain, there was a part of me that was absolutely terrified to essentially get rid of that security blanket. Like, what if my husband's gone on a work trip and I get too overwhelmed with the kids and I'm just trying to make dinner, but they're screaming and fighting and all I want to do is just go watch a show while I make dinner so I don't lose my you-know-what. And even though in the past I had put it off, I finally came to that moment in time where I'm pretty sure that I was asking Jackson to clean something up and he was arguing with me about it, and I was just trying to hold him accountable for dealing with the activity that he had played with before he moved on to any TV or other activity. And I so desperately wanted to be like, we're not watching TV for a month, but I didn't. I knew that if we were going to go into a whole month screen-free, I needed to do it in a way that wasn't coming from a place of anger. It had to be coming from a place of calm, and I really wanted to address the whole situation to Jackson specifically, like he wasn't being attacked and like we were going to be going about this as a team. And this is the breaking the news story. So I had gone into Jackson's room when we had both calmed down and asked him if we could talk because I had an idea for a family challenge that I wanted to get his thoughts on. And I didn't point fingers. I basically just went into a discussion about what happens to our brains and our bodies when we watch too much TV or play too many video games. And these are all conversations that we had had in the past, so it wasn't any new like groundbreaking information to him. But this time I told him, I think it would be really cool to see what it would be like for our family to do an experiment to see what happens if we didn't watch any TV or play video games for a month. And in that moment, I was 100% waiting for the shrieks, the crying, something to be thrown. I was waiting for the meltdown, and it didn't happen. I was absolutely shocked. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, I think that would be really cool. And that is how our no screen month began. I unplugged the cord from the TV in the wall. I hid that somewhere in my room. And then the next day, my husband took this a whole step further, literally took the TV off the wall, which I wasn't expecting or even felt like was really necessary just because like it was unplugged. But the TV just came off the wall. We put it in our closet, and that is where the first week starts. So when the TV came off the wall, it felt like the perfect excuse for me to finally paint in the living room, which was something that I was really recently starting to consider. So that first weekend of no screens going into the week, we were all busy in the living room. We were clearing furniture out, we were painting, we were cleaning up all the random crap that was underneath the couch. And the boys were really involved in almost every step of it. They were really excited. The couch was out in like our dining room kitchen area and it was all pushed together. So I think that there was just so much chaos going on in the house that they didn't even have a chance to really realize that there was no screen on the wall. And honestly, over the course of the few days that we did have our couch out of the living room, I was so surprised at how much fun children can have with couches. I mean, I know like the boys love the cushions and play with them frequently, but it was just the couch was taken to a new level, and it was kind of like the perfect timing in this whole situation. But ultimately, when the excitement of the living room and the couch kind of came to an end, they were still doing a ton of painting, looking at books, playing with their Legos, Magnetiles, random toys that they hadn't played with in I don't even know how long. My oldest, he started listening to audiobooks. We had a lot of outside play. One day we all ended up waking up at 5 a.m. somehow, and we made slime together, and it was wonderful and exhausting all at once. And it was really moments like that that got me thinking about, these are the moments that they are going to remember about their childhood. They're not going to remember the stuff that they watch on TV. And looking back, I think that the only thing that has really stuck in my mind as far as TV that I watched when I was a kid is I vividly remember sitting on the living room floor when Corey and Topanga's wedding was announced on Boy Meets World, and the episode of So Weird where the girl turned into a werewolf, and that was where I saw red eyes for the first time. I wonder if that's where I developed my fear of the light from the smoke alarm. Anyway, back to the boys. There was so much tape and cardboard that was happening, also string. And the more that we got into the month, the less they needed me for encouragement or ideas or guide them while they were in those moments of boredom, which, fun fact, being bored is good for you. It encourages creativity, which takes us to our general observations and the things that surprised us the most over the course of the month. I will forever be shocked at how well they took it, especially Jackson. And then a thing that I noticed that I was kind of surprised by was my oldest didn't ask for the TV as much as my youngest did, which I really wasn't anticipating. And even now, it's still my youngest asking for the TV more. Now, granted, my oldest, like Jackson, he goes to school for a big chunk of his day and week, so that probably has something to do. We'll see how things go by the time summer rolls around. But I think the thing that surprised me and made the most impact on me was noticing the level of play that my toddler, well, I guess he's a preschooler now, would get into. And I had learned recently that there are stages of play, I guess, like there's exploring where the kids are manipulating whatever they're playing with and like figuring out the physical properties. And then there's like the actual play where they're actively engaging in it and there's like a plan and some kind of intention behind what they're doing. And in the past, I had thought that like Alec just doesn't really like these toys that much. But there were several days where Alec played with his Magnetiles literally one day, 3 hours. And it was like that for several days, 2 to 3 hours. He would sit in the living room and he would just play with his Magnetiles and like really actually play with him, not just like the 10, 15 minutes of exploratory play that he had been doing in the past. And it was just so eye-opening and so wonderful to really get to experience seeing him fully immersed in the activity that he was doing. Like, holy smokes. And then with Jackson, he is so mechanically inclined and just so dang creative. And like this, we knew about him, but it was really so special to get to see over the course of an entire month, just the myriad of ideas and creations that he came up with and all of these different concepts that just came out of his brain, especially with the tape. I don't want him to grow up, but also I'm very eager to see what he is when he grows up. And then bringing the boys together, I feel like they played a lot better together than they typically do or have. Like they were just coexisting so much more peacefully than they typically would have. And I think that was another one of the things that I was feeling really nervous about. Like they're just going to constantly be fighting if I can't let them watch TV. And that wasn't the case. And another thing, like it was just really easy and it seemed like they were happier and so much more willing to actually engage in activities that my husband and I would be doing around the house, like whether that was cooking dinner or starting a load of laundry. And that was pleasantly surprising, but it wasn't all fun and games. So let's talk about the hard parts. So hands down, I think the hardest part was the day that we were sick. And prior to this, my husband, he was leaving for a work trip and I said, hey, do you think that maybe we should put the TV up while you're gone? What if the boys and I all end up getting sick? And he's like, it'll be fine, you got this. And I'm like, easy for you to say, you're the one who's gonna be a couple 100 miles away. But the TV didn't go back up on the wall and we ended up getting sick. Just one morning, the boys and I all woke up with a cough and there was no TV. And there was one point where I was like trying to find an old laptop of mine and like find a charger to go with it so I could just put a DVD in for us to sit on the couch and watch something, but that didn't end up happening. And honestly, like the couches were still pushed together at that point. So we just threw a bunch of blankets on them. Like we all got cozy, we read books, we listened to an audiobook together and just played with some low-key toys. And it was actually really fun, not restful, but we survived. And then another thing that I think was actually, this was like hands down the overall most challenging thing. When Jackson went back to school, the days that he was in school, Alec missed brother. And so days like that, I really had to be super involved with him, either playing with him or finding something for him to do. And I mean, I don't mind doing these things. There was just a different level of involvement that I needed to be in where typically, it's, oh, you're bored and I'm trying to do something, watch TV for a little while. And I don't want it to seem like, oh, I don't want to spend time with my toddler. Like that's not the case, but during the day, like there are other things that I need to do as a homemaker, but for the most part, he did get to the point where he was able to like think of things to do on his own. Alrighty, so obviously a month is a long time. Let's chat about, did we cave at all? So there were a few circumstances. my friend Nicole and I, we took our 4 combined children to the Oregon coast to the beach, and we were in a small cabin over the course of a few days, and the weather was crummy for a significant period of the time that we were down there. So yes, we absolutely turned the TV on during that time. Also, as we were leaving, I could not find Alex's bank, and I told Nicole, I'm like, I can't find his bank. Like, I'm kind of thinking maybe this is just the weekend that I wean him, and she's like, let's do it 100%. Like, I will support you with this. So just with the combination of like 4 kids, 2 tired moms, one of the children doesn't have their bink for the first time, we're in cramped quarters inside, the weather is not good. Like, yes, we are going to turn on a movie or 2 at the end of the day and watch a show here and there. And then during the week of Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law and her fiance, they came to our house from out of town, and we had the TV off the wall. And normally my mother-in-law's fiance, when he comes over, there's a football game that ends up on the TV or a basketball game, and he couldn't do this. And he was a very good sport about it and like very encouraging about what we were trying to do for the boys and our family. But one of the nights that they were staying here, my 2 nieces ended up spending the night. And so my husband went out to his office, got his large computer monitor that he uses for work. We plugged a Fire Stick into it and we watched Home Alone 2. I don't know why we didn't start with Home Alone 1, but whatever. And at the end of the weekend that they had stayed with us, my mother-in-law's fiance, Jerry, he said to us, you know, I've really realized over the course of like the few days how addicted I am to TV. And it was really cool because it was an eye-opening experience for him. And I just really appreciate looking back, like how good of sports they were about coming over to our house and there not being a TV. And then Alec and I, we did watch a Daniel Tiger episode about going to the dentist prior to Alec's first dentist appointment. And then I didn't put any of our no screen time stipulations on my parents. I did tell them no tablet for Jackson though, but they could watch a show or like whatever my parents were watching when they were there. And even though we had those hiccups along the road, while our no screen challenge ended on December 9th, we didn't even end up putting the TV up for another week. The boys had asked about it a few times, but they'd end up getting distracted and we'd get distracted and the TV just never ended up on the wall. And that I felt pretty proud of. And now that we are at the end of the challenge, let's talk about how things are going and how we are structuring TV time and video game time now. So at this moment in time, we're not doing any TV time unless all prior activities are cleaned up. I'm not so much a stickler about bedrooms. It's more like if you have done some kind of activity out in our main living space, it needs to get cleaned up before we decide what you're going to be watching on TV. And honestly, that has helped so much. They're so much more accountable for their things. And then I would say like more often than not, they end up getting distracted by either what they're cleaning up, they end up playing with it again, or they move on to a different activity instead of actually watching TV. But in the situations where they are watching TV, with Alec, he is only watching PBS Kids. I'm asking him, what would you like to watch on PBS? We're not looking for shows on Prime or Netflix anymore, unless we're deciding on something in advance. Like, you know, you can watch Puff and Rock or Tumbleleaf, and there hasn't been any arguments regarding it. Jackson, like I had mentioned, he doesn't really watch TV or request it too much. And when he does, he's kind of like me. It's like we have our one show that we watch. And Jackson really only wants to watch Dino Trucks. And yes, there's a lot of fighting and violence in that, but Alec can watch the show with his big brother. It's not the end of the world for me. We don't do any TV in the morning before school. And then ironically, no more YouTube. My son used to like to watch YouTube. It was a big fight. I hated 90% of the crap that he was watching on there, unless we are watching something together as a family, or we're watching something educational or something that's kind of geared around one of our hobbies. And I'm okay with YouTube for stuff like that, or YouTube for stuff like this, or I'll watch sourdough videos and my husband will watch Jeep wheeling videos. And now since we've made these changes and gone through that month, I feel like we all experience TV a little bit differently now, and especially our family movie nights, I feel like we're all so much more excited about them. And one of our favorite things to do is to watch one of our favorite childhood movies with the boys. And there's just nothing like watching one of your childhood favorites with your kiddos and seeing their reaction, or watching one of your significant other's childhood favorites that you haven't seen. Like it's been a lot of fun. And then when it comes to video games, we are still trying to figure out how to navigate that system. And it's just honestly very, very hard. So if you have any tips, share your experience with me. What's working for your family? But yeah, just looking back over the month, like regardless of the ups and downs, especially the ones that we're navigating now, I will just shout from the rooftops that no screen month that we did was absolutely life-changing. I'm so thankful that I finally got to the point of putting on my brave face and following through with it. I highly recommend that every family do this just at some point. And if you do, here are just a few thoughts that I have to make your month successful. Take your TV off the wall Initially, I didn't think that it was going to make a big difference having the TV off of the wall. I thought that all I needed to do was unplug it and just physically make it not work. But looking back, I do think that the out of sight, out of mind thing really did play a part in how successful our month was able to be. And then in the beginning, be extra patient and available. Like I said, the boys needed some initial encouragement and ideas in the beginning, but really took the reins after a week or two. And then another thing that I think is extremely important, which is so hard because so much of our lives are just controlled by technology, but lead by example and limit screen time for yourself. Avoid being on your phone as much as possible. And then obviously, if you work from a computer for your job, do your job. But if you can swing doing all of your computer stuff after your kids are asleep or if they're gone, that's what I did. But it was really nice to see what is necessary to our lives when it comes to technology and what's not. And it's interesting because while initially I was so nervous to take the screen off the wall and say, we're not watching TV, we're not playing video games. At the end of the challenge, I was very much experiencing like the opposite feeling, like the fear of putting the TV back on the wall. Like, what's going to happen if we put everything back up? Like, I don't know if I can do it. And I guess with screens, it's one of those things where you have to find the balance with it. You have to find what works best for you and your family, and what works well for mine might not work well for yours, or what works well for somebody else might not work well for me. But we all know the research is out there. If the scale is tilted too far in one direction, we're going to rot our kids' brains and ours, but no pressure. And before we end things, I want to share a little interview that I did with my oldest, Jackson. It's a chilly day, so the boys moved some chairs in front of the fire. And right now we are just going to have a chat. I'm going to ask each of the boys a few questions about our no screen month and what they thought. Alec, do you remember when we took the TV off the wall and we didn't watch any TV or video games? Did you think that was fun? Yeah. What about you, Jackson? What was your favorite part of the no screen month? We'll start with the positive. What do you think? Fergus is here.
Well, first of all, I was a lot more creative.
Fergus is here.
Yeah.
Fergus is here.
And I wasn't asking about it a lot.
Fergus is here.
Yeah, you were really creative. That was actually one of my favorite things that I had talked about is
Fergus is here.
Fergus is here. Is how cool it was to see all the things that you came up with. And do you remember, I think it was the fourth day I asked you, so how do you think it's going? And do you remember what you said?
Mm-mm.
You said, it's actually not that bad. Like, we were having a lot of fun, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun to see all the things that you and brother decided to do. Alec, what was your favorite part of no TV?
Oh, Fergus is purring.
Fergus is purring. What do you think the hardest part was, Jackson?
I don't think there was a hardest part.
Really? So if I just took the TV off the wall and we brought it out in the backyard and I'm like, this is our new sled, what would you think about that? You think we should do that? You think we should do no screens forever? No. So we have to find the balance, right? And then would you want to do a no screen challenge again? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
How long do you think that you could be without watching TV or playing video games?
A year.
A year? You'd want to do a no...
Mom,
That would be a crazy challenge.
Mm-hmm.
A whole year?
I think I wouldn't even
Yes,
think about
look.
TV on like the
Fergus is
fifth
bigger.
year.
Yeah, probably even before that. Who knows?
Fergus is bigger.
Fergus is bigger. Yeah, he's really stretching.
That's funny.
Hey, Alec.
Fergus is bigger.
Alec, what's your favorite song?
Papa Pig.
Peppa Pig. What's your favorite song to listen to on Alexa? Lightning McQueen.
You can't listen to Lightning McQueen on Alexa.
I was thinking he was gonna say Boot Scoot and Boogie. Alrighty, well, that's that. Well, that is all. I appreciate you taking a chunk out of your day to hang out with me and chat about our no screen month. If you'd like to see part 1 of our living room makeover, that's in the description. If you're not yet subscribed, you're invited. I hope to see you in the next one. As always, I love you. Have fun and be kind.